And welcome back to Castlevania 2! Or to say, not welcome back, welcome to Castlevania 2! Simon's Quest Prologue. The game, a sequel to Castlevania, which was a big success. So let's just start right away. And the basic plot, and this game took a big step outside from the established platforming form of Castlevania 1 and went to completely different. This is the first, well, Metroid was earlier, but Konami took heat from Metroid and added it to Castlevania, and giving birth to the second half of the Metroidvania genre. So the basic plot is the same. Simon Belmont is the protagonist, and he was cursed by Dracula from his duel. So he must resurrect Count so he can then kill him again, and with that undo his curse. And when you compare it to the previous Castlevania, it's vastly different. There are towns, you can talk to people. Well, let's talk to this guy. Well, yeah, well, there's people you can talk to because of the clunky translation and most likely also clunky original text. Don't tell much, so this is very much of brute force game that you have to know what you're supposed to do, and you can travel between different areas, and there's also a very annoying thing. So yeah, the basic difficulty from the game is not now in the horrifyingly, annoyingly harsh platforming, but in realm of you have to figure out what to do and where to do. But the basic plan is still the same. There's 5 mansions hidden in the, well, world of Castlevania, how you wanna call it. And what a horrible night to have a curse. Yeah, there's day-night cycle in this game. And nighttime makes enemies you encounter twice as dangerous, and also makes them drop twice the amount of hearts, which not only are sub-weapon ammunition, also are your currency. And if I remember right, also they counted as experience points as well. The game's got several, you could say, mechanics which are unique to it, but in a sense it also doesn't. It implements them quite weird manner. But let's just get going. This is the beginning of the game, in which this game does have few phases where you need to grind. But generally Simon moves much more swifter, and well, he feels much swifter and better controlled than in the first Castlevania, and also he feels to be controlling better than his ancestor Trevor in Castlevania 3, which of course went back to the platforming action type of game, even though it had rudimentary things about this with alternating paths. But this one was a very daring move to completely different direction, which of course I think that if nowadays they would try to do something like a retro remake this or something, they could make this game a really good. Because, well, things which were really good at original Castlevania are not so much present in here, but this one brought lots of other things that the original Castlevania didn't have. And of course, this also was the first sequel. And I'm quite certain that the Konami got the idea of making more action-oriented, or let's say more adventure-oriented sequel was from Legend of Zelda, which first one follows the quite established Zelda formula, while the second one has adventure and platforming sequences. Or let's say has adventure and action sequences, or side-scrolling action. This one, Castlevanias usually have either been fully 3D games or have been or 2D. They haven't had any kind of, you could say, pseudo 3D or mix of different kind of gameplays in it, which is also quite. And of course, the most respected Castlevania games are meant to be two-dimensional. And of course, when you go to the city, there are zombies walking about. Yeah, they have massive 2 frames of animation in them, and the same little glitch of holding the attack button while on stairs makes you swing. But the morning sun has vanquished the horrible night. And when the morning comes, enemies from the cities disappear and you can get to the buildings. Want to buy holy water? Yes, that is very important thing. And also notable that Simon doesn't have... Simon can upgrade his whip to perhaps the most powerful version of the vampire killer, at least as much as these classical ones, but those upgrades have to be bought. You can't find them. You have to buy upgrades, or some of them you find, but mostly you have to buy your upgrades. And the game is difficulty of Simon's Quest is not in the gameplay. Gameplay works fine. Platforming sequences are quite simplistic. There's very little of horrifying monsters spamming about. It's all in the fact that you have to figure out what to do, where to go, how to go, and what to do. And some of those things you have to figure out are really obscure and difficult to figure out. And you also have the main 6 different menu about all the items you can discover. And Simon also does not have some of the sub-weapons. He established sub-weapons of the first Castlevania, which is to say he's quite poorly armed in comparison to when he was raiding Dracula's castle. But then again, it could be assumed that if you wanna attack some sort of horrifying undead lords or undead monsters lair, you wanna be armed to the teeth. And now he's not. Now he's exploring and trying to find out. But these are what the game's bread and butter is. You have to find mansions which provide this kind of different kind of platforming location. And of course, but you can say that the difficulty of Castlevania 2 is completely different from the first Castlevania. It can be very challenging game, but not in sense that first Castlevania is, in that you have a sluggishly moving dude having to avoid things which are much more agile and dangerous than he is. Or at least proportionately more dangerous. Shit. And I was killed. Yeah. There are no pieces of wall meat to eat either. Which of course amplifies the effect of that this is not a platforming game, even though gameplay is platforming. The basic genre is not platforming, even though Castlevania has a bit of horror atmospheric doses. And I guess that was a level up. They are really, you could say, a bit of wonky. But in mansions, the idea is to move around the mansion, which has several of these all kind of platforming challenges and transparent blocks. So, throwing out holy water to probe your path is a smart idea. And also, mansions have this weird guy. Each mansion has this weird guy walking about, and he is extremely important because without him, you're not gonna get through mansions. And of course, there's also enemies in mansions, all kinds of skeletons walking about. Some of them may be very dangerous, some of them may be not. But it doesn't really matter. Every mansion, and there's 5 of them in the game, hides a piece of Dracula's body. Most of them don't have, and Simon of course has to gather them all so he can resurrect Dracula, which will raise out his curse, and to get the necessary piece of Dracula's body for the resurrection purpose, you need to buy an oak stake. Yeah. How it works, I don't know, but that's the gameplay. How it could be explained in a narratively, I don't know, but that's how the game makes it. Oh yeah, that was a. It could have been much worse. That. Yeah, there are fake walls, and all kind of slimes and all that kind of. And I died. My mistake. Another. Yeah, a bit of navigational mistakes, because these places are can be a bit of convoluted to go through. Although I do say that not like that. But when you continue right at where you died. So you can say that in execution sense, Castlevania 2 is leagues below first Castlevania, but when the difficulty is in completely different part of the area of the game, it somehow doesn't surprise at all. The game is not particularly. Oh yeah, I made a quite big mistake in my navigation. I have to redo the whole bloody mansion again. Not particularly smart move on my part. Oh yeah, not. So you can really see that the game can punish quite harshly you doing mistakes. But in other kind of action platformer, this kind of thing that you have to redo something might be beneficial if the rewards, if you could get some tangible rewards from doing it, like experience points, upgrades and all that kind of things. But in this one, there really doesn't feel to be that kind of good upgrades from progressing, or just progressing, that if you have to do the same kind of thing 25 times. Well, extra hearts are always extra hearts, and they are handy in this game. And you could say that the one little thing about enemies is that especially if they are these walking skeletons, where they walk, you can walk. So there are no selective unwalkable floors or anything like that. They are all very clearly that if enemies walk them, you can walk them. Which of course might make things. That was a bit annoying skeleton. Yeah, just jumping down. But that room over there, on my right side, not only has quite spooky interior decoration, is the place where I want to go, and there's so much of these stairs in these mansions. So let's just toss out hearts. Not like this. That is one of the bad. Yeah, I did some pre-testing just to figure out some, like, well, I did some research. Oh yeah, there's a right on this pillar. There's fake floor. Luckily, fake floors usually don't drop you directly into death, just down and annoyance. Oh, let's just bring out my oak stake. And now I process Dracula's rib. Yeah, the shoddy translation of the original has been faithfully kept, and rib has also secondary effect. It allows you to block fireballs. Very small secondary effect, but it only applies when you stand still. But you can say it's still something. I'd say that might be the first appearance of shield in Castlevania games. Although I'd say that in Symphony of the Night, shields were much more important and prominent part of their gameplay mechanics. Because of Alucard shield. But first piece of Dracula's body part has been gathered, so time to leave the mansion. Because, well, there's no need to fight enemies any more than you need to, which usually means that there's quite lots of them right ahead, so. And this was and crystals make invisible platforms visible, but they still are there. So now I'm heading this way. To get forward again, and there's bats, and I died by jumping into a skeleton. My mistake. And this song playing is one of the most famous Castlevania songs ever made. If I remember right, it's called Bloody Tears, and it's a fine piece of game music. So there's quite much of the quite familiar enemies from the first Castlevania, which the spiders, skeletons, and all mermen, and all that kind of pests. But generally, nothing really, you could say, remarkable enemies. Bats, eyeballs, skeletons, nothing really horrifyingly unfamiliar. But here, where I'm going now, there was this little bit of suspicious outcrop of these rocks, or how you wanna call them. And I can break the wall and get the Sacred Flame, which is a sub-weapon, which I'm gonna show what it does. But first I have to go through the awful monologue of, yeah, that's annoying to yeah, Sacred Flame makes a pillar of fire appear. It's quite handy, but it isn't. Most enemies of Castlevania 2 are something that you just want to avoid. I'm still getting forward, because this game is not pulling much punches about how it is done, how it plays, especially in certain fate. Well, and of course, rib or shield does not work against spider shots. Oh yeah, once again Simon was killed. But now I'm at the other city, which of course gives me a reason to actually stop the gameplay for this episode. First I wipe out this zombie. And it's time to end this episode right here and continue next time from this city. See you then. See ya.